Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Maglitta, contributing consultant at VentureBeat. And we're talking today with Amit Ben, head of AI at LogMeIn. Amit's got an interesting perspective on, and a little different take on what's been the popular discourse on how AI will impact jobs and the quality of work life. So most people think that once we get into widespread AI, it's going to take jobs, it's going to degrade the quality of life for a lot of people on the job. Amit has a different perspective. His idea is that AI will actually bring humanity back to digital business. So Amit, welcome, and why is that?
Thank you. Nice to be here. So that's right. The way I see it, AI is unlocking people's potential. And if you look back to technology, right? If you look back 100 years of technology, you're seeing how people are accommodating themselves to the benefit of technology. We're learning to adapt ourselves to how technology works. And then when technology becomes smarter, it becomes more adept in addressing our needs. And with software engineering, we were able to do a lot of things that made our lives a lot easier. But traditional software engineering has its limits. We can only do so much with code and basically engineers that are transferring their own smartness and expertise into code and into products. With AI and machine learning, we're able to deliver capabilities that are on a different level and are able to communicate with people on their own level. We can talk to people, we can listen, we can look, we can use machine vision, we can understand language. And that allows human beings to start taking matters into their own hands and operate things on their own accord.
So is the underlying idea here that AI will help machines and systems that people interact with on a job to adapt to the person rather than the person adapting to the system?
That's right. And if you look back at injuries that happened through machines, that's because people are operating it in ways that the people were not designed to work at, right? We're accommodating the way the machine was designed to work and sometimes in extraneous situations.
And so give me an example of that, if you could, please, either in the past, how it hasn't worked, and how it might work in a more ideal situation now where the system or the machine is adapting to the person through the use of AI.
Right. So I think we are seeing it in our day-to-day lives. Just look at your Netflix queue, at your Spotify queue. You're watching TV. You don't have to do much. It kind of learns to understand what you like and how to bring you the contents that you like to use. But also, as a professional, instead of operating machinery with levers, you can operate it with voice. Or the machine can do a lot more on itself without needing humans kind of getting into the nitty-gritty bits of it and kind of getting themselves in danger. As more machines become more autonomous, we can allow humans to take a further back seat and operating them from afar.
And again, so I understand that there's a personalization, there's an adaptation of a system to a human. How does that add to the human dignity that we're talking about? How does that bring the humanity back? It seems like the personalization is a big part of that. Understanding your preferences or my preferences is a big part of that. Are there other dimensions of how you would envision that the continuing widespread application of AI would continue to do that? Are there other dimensions of that?
Sure. I think the way we can look at AI as like a concierge or assistants that adapt themselves to us. And the more clever the assistant is, the more it can cater to your needs and the less you need to explain yourself. So if it really understands you and what you're going for, it can be there for you when you need it without you needing to spell out every small detail.
One of the things that I've seen a lot of lately, I was looking at an article yesterday, excuse me, about chatbots as a service. Chatbots have been used by many businesses now to pop up a friendly face, say, hi, mate, could I help you with something? So on one hand, that's personal. And on the other hand, if you wanted to play devil's advocate, you could say that's a little bit less personal because I know that's a chatbot. I know that it's not Mark talking to me. I know that it's probably a chatbot. Would you consider that, and are you concerned about how people might respond to that? Or is that something that we have accepted and that's just going to be a dimension of personalization that again, acknowledges the humanity of people more?
Right. So first, acknowledging that not all chatbots are created equal. Some of them are more aware of who you are and some are less. But the reality is, and the data that we have, and we've been in the last 10 years, we've been deploying chatbots in hundreds of brands around the world, and sometimes right along human chat. So you would have the AI-driven chat and you have the human chat side by side. And once we make users aware there's an option to speak to a machine rather to a human, we actually see a spike of 10 times more chats being initiated. And what we think is happening is that when people are there and they know that if they're going to start speaking, they're going to start speaking to a person, there's an added friction there. There's a commitment that now you're going to have to be nice, you're going to have to be polite, you're going to have to go through the process of the conversation. There's some commitment and a cost involved. But then when you're talking to a machine, it's so much easier. You don't have to be polite. You can go straight to the point. You can get what you need and not what the agent needs. And it allows people to be a lot more outgoing and easygoing when they start these engagements. And we see, seriously, a 10x increase in the amount of conversations.
And you say when we see that, is that based on LogMeIn's business or across the industry?
So I know the data based on LogMeIn's business, but I'm sure this is the same across other businesses as well.
Is there a generational aspect to this? I mean, do we find that younger people are more likely and more comfortable communicating with what is known to be a chatbot than people of other generations?
As chatbots become more and more mature and they're starting to speak more as a person and less as a machine, that gap really narrows and disappears.
So it really is the more people become familiar, the more comfortable they are.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you give us one more example before we poke at this a little bit more? Can you give us another example of how AI will, again, as you say, help bring humanity back to that? So we've got adaptation, we've got personalization, we've got more efficient, less friction in routine communications. What other dimensions are there?
Just think about vision, all right? Let's take our most dominant sense. When you shop online, you look at stuff, but let's say we're shopping for a suit or you're shopping for shoes and you want to look and see how that would fit on me. Now, the way we humans operate, you're trying to imagine how that would look and we're not really good at that. So we're approximating and you end up many times ordering things that don't match you, your size, your color, your taste. And many other cases, people just don't shop because they're not certain that's what they want. And what we are doing today with AI is that we have services that you can go and just snap a picture of yourself and then click on every product in the catalog and see how you're going to look wearing that. And it's going to basically dress you. And it kind of brings back the experience of looking in a mirror and figuring out, I like how this looks on me, or I don't like how this looks on me. And when you make that purchase decision, you're looking at yourself and it connects with you and it stays with you. That's one way of doing that. And what we're seeing across the board is that AI is allowing us to, again, communicate on a human level through our senses, through our unspoken communication. So you have visual language, you have voice. So AI can speak to you. So instead of speaking in a robotic voice, AI allows you to speak in something that sounds very human-like and can even pause or changes in inflection to kind of suit the situation that it is in.
So there's actually a paradox here. The more we get AI, the more we produce a personalized human experience that brings out human senses, human preference, and all the other dimensions of ourselves.
Yeah. It was always the charter or the dream or the challenge for artificial intelligence to kind of meet and rise to the level of human intelligence. That was always the golden level of AI maturity. So we're striving to make it as human as possible. In places where AI interacts with people, there are also AIs that are just crunching numbers or doing things behind the scenes. But when we're talking about communications, we're talking about service, we really want to reach a point where AI can also have this emotional capacity for empathy, for understanding, for being attentive to what's going on in a conversation, for example.
So you mentioned that people tend to want to talk to chatbots more just because they're more efficient. Have you thought, looking down the line, if we'll get to a point where AI gets smarter, more conversational, more human-like, if there's an inflection point there where it will start to creep people out, where it's a little bit too human and a little too real?
There is this thing that's called the uncanny valley, where we're humans, we're really adept in figuring out if something is off in the person we're talking to. Like maybe he's a bit crazy, or maybe he's just tired, or maybe he's off. We're really good at discerning that. And when, like, if you would see a cartoon or an animated semblance of a person talking to you, and it's very clear that it's not a person, then it's fine. But if that animation approximates a person very, very closely, but it's not perfect, that's where it creeps people out. And there is this very fine line that we're trying to get through and kind of cross that uncanny valley and reach a point that it's not only seems to be human, but it's indistinguishable from humans.
So it's part of the same valley that, for example, movie animation had to pass through.
Exactly.
We went through that kind of odd, doesn't look quite right, looks like an
We're still
alternate
there in many
reality,
cases.
alien interpretation, and we've moved a lot past that. But you're saying the same kind of movement likely is going to take place in AI facing people in more
That's
mundane
exactly right.
business
That's
situations.
exactly right, yeah.
So why are you and why is LogMeIn interested in this? You're head of AI
Yeah.
at LogMeIn. What is your personal interest in what is LogMeIn doing? What's your business interest in this?
So LogMeIn's mission is to unlock the potential of the modern workforce and the modern consumers. So that's exactly what we're looking for. And the way I'm personally looking at it as the head of AI for LogMeIn, my mission is to find ways to give modern employees or modern consumers AI superpowers. If I can find ways for AI to really know what these consumers or employees need and just give it to them in the right time, in the right moment, in the right way that they need it, and I can give them superpowers, I can unleash their potential. Whether that's as a chatbot, and that chatbot can be, it doesn't have to be giving you service for somebody that you purchased. You can be an employee, and you just need assistance getting your job done. And instead of asking a person, or maybe you're afraid to ask something because you're afraid you're going to sound stupid, you can freely ask and consult with this. Think about it as your buddy in your work area, in whatever that you do. If we can have AI, just listen. Maybe you're a sales person, and you can have this AI that is on your sales calls, and he can be your mentor. And he can kind of give you pointers like, hey, I think this is the right time to give an offer, or I think it's the right time to back off. Maybe you're a junior doing something, and you can get this on-the-job training, because the AI can be as silent or as loud as we need it to be. So that on-the-job training is always more powerful than training before the job.
So if I wanted to be a wise guy about it, I would say that sounds really cool. And it would be nice to have a wise voice in your ear informed by data that could say, pull the trigger now. But to flip around on your premise, I mean, I can also say in some ways that makes the experience less human, because instead of having a trusted mentor with a little bit of gray on the side who has been in the industry for 25 years and is now giving you advice, it's a bunch of algorithms based, bringing you the wisdom of a data pile. Help me understand how that humanizes the experience.
So the way these algorithms would work is they will look at these expert salespersons or expert support people or whatever the employee is doing. We'll look at these experts, and the AI will learn to imitate them, because we're basically capturing what these experts are doing, and we're letting the machine replicate them. We're not making up these capabilities out of thin air. We're learning from people, and we're basically learning to store and retain that knowledge that in many cases organizational knowledge just, gets lost when people move out and change positions. But now our organization can retain what the people in the organization learn to do and store it for prosperity. And I think it's the most natural way for people to learn by looking at what other people did. It's our most basic way of learning.
So you're accumulating in some ways the wisdom of the ages, the wisdom of the organization, and distilling human wisdom and understanding and knowledge and experience and delivering it in a personalized way at the point of use.
Yeah, at the right time, in the right way that suits your needs. Because if that was a person mentoring you, you also need to do it on his terms, right? Maybe he's tired right now. Maybe he doesn't have time, or maybe he really wants to have an agenda of his own. But if you just have this knowledge, you can control the medium through which that knowledge is available to you. You have a win-win scenario.
So you're helping to raise my performance, my potential, and my understanding of all these issues.
That's right.
So where is LogMeIn right now in terms of developing and offering and productizing these kinds of capabilities?
So we have just recently released a suite of capabilities targeting specifically these use cases. So in Bold360, we have acquired that helps consumers get the right service that they need to kind of make a purchase decision or start a conversation. But we also have the product that helps agents get exactly this type of support on their day-to-day jobs. And we're not at a point yet where it's kind of a voice in your ear to kind of whisper the right advice, but it is something we're aspiring for.
So we can imagine a couple of iterations down the line, it's an actual voice, and a couple of generations beyond that, it's a chip. And we're
hopefully not too far from now.
Cyborgy brilliant. We're winding down our time here. So let's take a step backwards. So that's the business impact of it. From a societal point of view and from a more global point of view, what happens if you're right about this, that AI will in fact elevate the work experience, bring more humanity and more performance back to digital business? What does that look like when it starts to hit a number of businesses and a number of industries? And that may be beyond what you're doing day to day, and I understand that. But I'm trying to get to, what happens if this does work, and what happens if it doesn't work? If this seems like a great experiment, and for some reason it doesn't get.
If it doesn't work, I guess I'm out of a job.
Well, there's that.
But I think it's very easy to see what happens when it's going to work. I think there's very low likelihood of whether or not it's going to work. The only question is who's going to get it to work faster and on which industries. I think just look at the streaming music industry, like Spotify. If you look back 10 years ago, all they had to do is just stream music and you would be happy with it. You pick a song, you play it, great. But today, if you don't have this AI-driven personalization, automatically curated playlists, and everything kind of adapt to your taste, you're not even in the game as a music streaming service. And what's more disconcerting is that these capabilities, these AI-based capabilities, used to be key differentiators for the music streaming business, but today there's table stakes, right? You really have to get it right in order to be a music streaming business. So what actually we see is that the music streaming business is actually an AI business. Right? Music streaming is easy. Everybody can open a music streaming service. The technology is very simple, but the AI to get it right and to get it personalized, to get people to use it and like what they're hearing, that's the trick. And we're going to see that across all industries over time, as it's going to be increasingly impossible to differentiate without AI capabilities. And if you're not going to do that, you're going to just stay behind. You're just going to have these traditional capabilities like dumb music streaming, but if you want people to start using your service, you're going to have to play along. And people are getting used to these smarter capabilities everywhere they are, on their music streaming, on their television, even when you take an elevator in big buildings. Did you notice that they don't longer trust us to pick an elevator in many bigger buildings? You need to tell them where you want to go, and the machine will tell you which elevator to take.
That's true.
Right? We're out of the equation now, because there's an AI that's optimizing the car flow in the building, right? And over time, we're going to rely more and more on these experiences. It's just how it's going to be.
So it's already here.
It's already here, and just the magnitude is going to increase over time.
Any final advice, admonitions, things you'd like to leave ringing in our ears?
I think businesses today have to look at how they're going to leverage AI to form a connection between themselves and their customers, and think about it not as purely a technology, but as an opportunity to connect. Because at the end of the day, AI for businesses, and I'm leaving aside all the data analytics part of it. I'm more speaking about the things that people can consume and experience. If businesses leverage that, they can form a whole other level of brand interaction and brand loyalty, as people just communicate with the brand directly and associate these empathic capabilities to it. So I would urge businesses to look at where they can deploy an AI in ways that connect their users to the business and provide them value.
Amit Ben, head of AI at LogMeIn. Pleasure talking to you.
You as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.